There we go. So, I guess just welcome everybody today. Like I mentioned, I work for Gretchen. If anybody is friends with her on Facebook, you will know that she's actually just finishing up. She's on vacation right now out of the country. So, big thanks to Nick for stepping in and being our guest coach tonight. But before he takes it away, we just have Gretchen asked me to just share one thing with you guys. And if you follow on any of our socials, you may have seen this, but just want to also pass this along. Um, so Gretchen is offering a special summer coaching sprint. It's a short-term, high-impact coaching package to help create clients, gain clarity, and take action. It includes 4 focus sessions designed to move the needle fast, with no long-term commitment. It's just real coaching, real action, and real results. All sessions must be used by the end of July, though, and spots are limited for this offer. So if this sounds like something that is for you, I will drop the link in the chat just in case you're curious. And then you can connect. You can always reach out if there's any further questions or you want to have a conversation about it. But we wanted to bring that up in case you were interested. So with that, I will kick it over to Nick.
All right. Thank you, Paige. So we are a small group tonight, and that means we have some flexibility if we want to mix it up. I'll say a bit more about this later, but definitely jump on in if it's going to be, the 4 of us or the 5 of us. So good evening to everyone. It is great to see you all and to guest host Gretchen's first Wednesday for this month. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to see what kind of growth we can make for each other. So as a quick reminder, this call will be uploaded publicly to Gretchen's YouTube channel, Gretchen Heido International. It will not be edited, so if you prefer not to be on camera or audio, please go ahead and mute your mic and turn your video off now. With that said, I'd love to see your faces and hear your voices as much as possible tonight. So First Wednesdays are for coaches who want to build their coaching business and actually make money doing it. Today, we're not just talking about the mechanics of your business, we're talking about what's happening inside your mindset, your beliefs, and the internal stories that shape everything. Thank you for posting that, Paige. So we're digging into the inner work of a coaching business because what keeps most coaches stuck isn't a missing niche or website, it's the story they're telling themselves inside their own head. So Gretchen offers a tremendous amount of content, and a good portion of that focuses on the mechanics of a coaching business, connection calls, coaching conversations, proposals, and much more. So she often dips into spot coaching of what's holding people back internally when working through these mechanics. So I thought for the next hour, let's see if we can take a closer look at some of these internal challenges of being a coach and see what we can find in common between these challenges and also what's in common with each other. So to get you thinking about these, here are some examples of challenges or blocks that I thought of. I feel embarrassed when telling others that I'm a coach, so I catch myself holding myself back. I worry that I'm asking for too much money when I make a proposal, and I see that lack of confidence affecting my clients, or rather affecting my sales. I need to update my website before I really start having conversations with clients. I suspect some of these may sound familiar to you. So as we get into this topic, what I'd love for you all to walk away with tonight are a few different things. Feeling that you're not alone. It's all too easy to think that you're the only one suffering from a particular fear or challenge. You're not. I want you to hear about some of the beliefs that others have about their own challenges, and some may be familiar with you, and others may surprise you. Third, we would be coaches if we didn't identify some alternative beliefs or challenging beliefs for you to move forward with. And lastly, if you were to believe some of these alternative beliefs from yourself or perhaps others' alternative beliefs, what new action could you take after today? So with all that said, let's get to it. So here's what I often see myself and others. Coaches often know what to do for our businesses, but we keep avoiding it. We withdraw from it. We rationalize away from it. We tell ourselves that the block is something outside ourselves. But the truth is the block is inside. Perhaps it sounds familiar. Does anyone suspect that this is the case for you? Small group, please feel free to jump in if so.
It resonates.
Thank you, Emily. Appreciate it. So to get the most out of this time together, let's make it as interactive as possible. So throughout this hour, please feel free to unmute and jump in during any pause. Or if you're worried about interrupting, just go ahead and use the Zoom raise hand option and I'll call on you. I think we'll be able to keep track of it with this group, so just jump right on in. So to get started, I want you to think of as many of the following. What are some internal challenges that you or other coaches, it does not have to be just about you, so challenges that you are bumping up against right now in their coaching business? And go ahead and unmute or throw it into the chat, and as many as possible. What are some potential challenges?
Definitely have I can have insecurities crop up. Like if I have a session with a client that sort of feels like it was okay, but it wasn't like hitting the ball out of the park. I'm like, oh, am I a good enough coach? Like, am I good enough to be charging these rates? What if, um,
Right.
sort of skill, especially having like I'm finished my certification program a while ago, so I'm not like I don't feel like as hot as I was in terms of like, oh, I've like totally finger on the pulse of everything I should be doing and how. And so if I feel a little rusty, it can erode my confidence.
That's great. And I heard, comments about, are you good enough as a coach? You mentioned certification.
Hmm.
You mentioned nervousness about like, are you good enough? All super common. Any others that we can come up with? I know I've come up with, I at the beginning I thought, oh, I have to update my website. I don't want to like start asking for clients until my website's just perfect. I'm guessing you may have heard this either, if not from yourself, but from other coaches.
Hmm.
I hear this from my chapter all the time.
I
So
can con I can contribute my personal. So I graduated from 3 coaching schools. None of them ICF certified. I mean, they're certified by other bodies. So I'm like, oh my gosh, am I doing the right coaching? So like
absolutely.
it was haunting me for a long time. Kind of is now, but like, oh, somebody like this CTI or coach you, they probably know something better than I do.
Yeah.
It sometimes doesn't turn to be true.
Hmm.
Okay. That's three coaching certifications. You were an overachiever there, Jenya. Um, and that makes sense. And so both of those that you mentioned, all those were really related to being a coach. I wonder if there's any of these blocks or challenges around like how to run a business or how you're approaching people as just a human being.
Hmm. I feel like the marketing feels challenging. Like I have a system where I'm like, okay, a once a week LinkedIn post. And then in my head, I'm like, I've got to get a newsletter, but I, only have so many hours in the day. So how do I take, how do I like cross purpose pieces, and sort of trying like feeling like I don't have a super clear understanding, like what's the ROI? I know I need to get my voice out there, like both in, one-on-one and in like these broader avenues, but I kind of feel like I'm like putting stuff out into the ether and not exactly knowing um, what the impact is. And
Right.
it takes time and energy.
It does. And so it sounds like maybe there's a belief around, oh, you have to put your energy into the right place
Yeah.
or you won't get a return, or it will be maybe a disaster if you don't just choose the right areas or the right places to focus. Okay.
Hmm.
One
So
thing that go ahead.
great. I'm glad you can jump in. Please, Lindsay.
I was just gonna say one thing that I think I'm finally getting over, but still creeps back in, is thinking I could only coach people from the industries I come from and not really expanding to if I'm a great coach, I can coach depending, it doesn't matter what industry they come from, what background they come from, what experience they have, right? So like really reminding myself that my skills are transferable, that we're still just connecting at a human level, but I was holding myself back a lot on like, oh no, I don't have that experience, so why would they want to talk to me?
Right. Right. Like what do you, and so there's a bit both about you as a coach, but also you as a person. Like, what do you bring to the table, and your personal experience, and is that enough? Okay, interesting. Anything else? We're going to be circling this topic, coming back to it multiple times, but anything else come up right now?
I think I shared that with you that I have a list of people and some names are from like 5 years ago. I haven't contacted these people for 5 years. And in my head, like, what are they going to think? Why now? Like,
Yeah.
what? I can't explain it to myself. And I know I
Mm.
don't have to, but still this comes to my mind.
Yeah. Are they going to think less of you if you reach out, with some sales pitch? And what does that mean? And do you have to reach out that way? There's a lot in there,
Oh, yeah.
probably.
And I know I'm not planning to reach out with a sales pitch, but even with a regular hi, how are you doing? It still feels kind of I was not interested in them for 5 years. Why now?
I think I think we can all relate to that. So we're
Mhm.
going to come back to these. So moving on to the next question, think for a few moments of where do you feel like you're falling behind, or maybe you're even wondering, am I the only one struggling with this? And maybe it's the same area, but maybe something different. And I'm curious if something comes to mind for this one.
Falling behind for sure on staying organized. I feel like, I mean, I bought into a CRM. I don't think it's hitting everything I need. And I'm just like trying to figure out my own process, especially as I think the part of the challenge too is I'm not thinking bigger. I'm like creating processes for what works now and not thinking like, well, what if this thing doubles and triples, right? Like thinking future forward.
I appreciate that. I was just speaking with Paige before this started about how do we, the services she and her company offer about, organizing things. So
Mm.
it's a thought that many of us coaches have. Thank you, Lindsay. So now this last question is just for yourself. We will come back to it for more discussion, but for now, pick one of the challenges that came up and think about what might be the belief or the mindset behind the lack of action. I just want to pause there for a moment while we think about that. So now that we're thinking about all these challenges, the potential beliefs, how can we take this and help each other out? So let's build what we already started on of coming up with these challenges. And what I'm really interested in today is crowdsourcing this together and seeing what we hear in each other, what's similar, what's different, and hopefully we can learn something from that. We aren't just going to learn for ourselves, but when Emily says something or Lindsay says something that, oh, I have that too, or I see it differently, that might be very powerful. So who would like to choose any coaching business challenge? It may be one that you've already brought up or a different one, and they're going to dig into a little bit further on that.
When you say a coaching business challenge, are you like more in a like from the mindset side of things or the like technical side of things or either?
It would be mindset side of
Mm-hmm.
things, but it could be the mindset behind, you said you were struggling with where to focus your attention. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
that is a simple matter of, consultancy, being like, hey, where should I focus this?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe there's an aspect of mindset of having to get it just right. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what do you think?
I mean, that certainly resonates, having to get it just right.
Okay.
Um, I've been, but if I may, I would add, or I would, the one that popped to my mind when you said it's a mindset is I feel like the wins that I get, I like don't hold on to in the same way as the like, oh, that didn't pan out. Um, and I see those much more as like a sign of like, is this possible? Can I actually make this a fruitful career? Um, if I didn't get that yes, and then I'll get a yes, and I'm like, oh, amazing, Yahoo! Like it just doesn't sink in the same way as the like, oh, this didn't work, whatever it is, in being like a sign, not a sign, not like, a bird flying past, but like, oh, is this indicative of something that like means that I'm can't swing it here?
Right. So it sounds like you're taking the wins and you're discounting them, but then you
Mhm.
look at the losses and you enlarge them disproportionately.
I
Is
think
that about right?
I would say enlarge the losses disproportionately. Yeah. Like I don't know that I discount the wins, but I'll be like, yahoo, that feels so good. I'm so excited for like, 4 hours. And then I'm like, okay, on to other things. And
Right.
but the losses, I'm like, all 3 days later, I'm like, ah, man, where did, it just like is sticky in a different way.
Right. Right. I know I can relate to that. I've certainly done that in my business. I'm curious, Jenny or Lindsay, can you relate to this particular challenge?
Oh yeah. Just there is, I mean, I'm still on this list of people I need to connect because that's where I am at. And just a few weeks ago, I'm like, I'm not like doing the work, I'm procrastinating. What does it mean about motivation? Am I actually, do I really want to be a coach? I'm like, all this meaning. Like, no, this is just challenging. This is just uncomfortable because it's a new thing to do. There is no high meaning. There is no
Mhm.
signs of fatality in it. And that was a relief for me.
So I think this is beautiful because already we're seeing with just the two of you the same challenge but different perspectives on the exact same thing. And
Mhm.
I'm Lizzie, you're welcome to jump in or not. I'm curious if you came across the same thing, but I suspect already that is pretty universal.
It
So
is, it is. And the other thing I just wanted, I mean, kind of similar, this idea of like, am I ready? And like playing small a little bit because we don't think that we're ready for those reach outs or ready to expand or ready to try a new service or program. So that has been a big, when you called out like what's the mindset? The first question that came up is, am I ready? And the second is playing small.
so let's kind of go back around and dig into, Emily, you're first in the hot seat. What could be the mindset behind this concern, behind not really the concern, but spending 4 hours on the wins and really amplifying the losses.
Mhm.
What do you think you're telling yourself?
I mean, the mindset is definitely like I don't know what training people have, but in the CTI, like saboteur, like I feel like I'm like listening to the voices that are like the doubt and the insecurity and um the disbelievers. And it's like a mindset of, I mean, to put it like terribly, like, oh, I'm a failure,
Mm,
versus like uh, you are starting something you've never done before for which there is not a playbook. And that is like so dang cool and hard. And there will be a lot of losses within the wins because you're doing something like new and awesome and amazing. So it's like listening to the like um the mindset is yeah, like the Debbie Downer, like, well, that's not going to happen for you, champ. Uh, Saboteur voices that like to jump on in.
I love this is and what are they telling us? What are they saying besides just you're a failure? Is it you're a failure because
I think you're not
one
good enough. Like,
that you're not
yeah, there's something about you that isn't, dynamic enough, professional enough, experienced enough. It's a like dot 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 enough, dot 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 enough. Um,
right.
yeah.
So I want to thank you already for being so open and vulnerable about this.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Lindsay or Jenya, whether it's the other challenges you've brought up or the challenge that Emily had that has brought up that you resonated with as well. What beliefs are behind your thoughts? And I'm curious if they're the same or if they're variations and different.
I can definitely relate to this reframing that you're just doing a thing which you have never done before. Why do you expect yourself to be like, I don't know, doing just great, no, no setbacks and stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely need
this I can
patience.
relate.
Well,
No, I mean, my point, I guess, that reframing that setbacks, discomfort is normal part of the process. Like
Mhm.
we should expect that
Mhm.
in a way.
so there's some belief saying that, hey, if this business is going to be successful, I have to get it right all the time from day one. But you're already coming up with a challenging, belief of saying like, no, it's okay.
Mhm.
You know, there will be mistakes, and that's okay. That doesn't mean anything. There's no great sign in the sky. Um, Lindsay, anything else you want to add regarding, the beliefs that you may share or see differently?
Yeah, I totally relate with both. I mean, I'm a perfectionist, so I expect everything I touch to go perfectly well, but I think this has all taught me patience for sure. Like, just because it's not coming now doesn't mean it's not going to come later. So, even in the way I like set up my process, I've changed my language. So instead of like somebody not moving forward or saying like declined, I just say future, right? Because we never know when they
Mm.
might pop up again. And it's
Great.
happened many times. So it's again patience and knowing
That's
that
great, Lindsay. I
we're
love that. I'm
learning.
like starring. Sorry.
Good. Take
That's
it.
awesome.
Because
Yeah.
it's true. Like we're creating something. I love what you said. Like there is no playbook for this. We're all doing it our own way and differently and learning. And that's something I've definitely worked on with my perfectionist tendencies. Like I'm learning and we're just gonna build from here.
So this exercise seems pretty natural for all of you, and that makes sense. We're all coaches. And maybe before, Lindsay, I know you have to drop in a few minutes. So what might be useful now is what beliefs might be useful for the other person in this group. So that is like, Jenya, what do you think might be another belief that Emily could have about her situation, or Lindsay could have about yours, Jenya? And I'm curious if we can learn something from that, um, if something different comes up, because hey, we're all different.
Well, are you suggesting kind of that I look at, let's say, Emily's situations and, oh, Emily, you need this belief from my standpoint. Is that what you are suggesting?
Yeah, give it a try.
Okay,
See, throw out a belief, and if it resonates, great. If it doesn't, maybe it will with someone else who listens to this recording.
I need to think.
All
I,
right.
I don't have immediate offer.
Well, can I offer one to you, Jenya?
Oh, absolutely, sure.
I had a moment when you said, "Oh, these people who I haven't heard from for 5 years." I thought, "Oh, how lucky they'll be to like get your name in their inbox. Like, what a nice treat that will be to hear from someone from years ago to connect."
Yeah, yeah. The moment I said what I said, I kind of sit with that and decided like, okay, what is better? 1 in 5 years or 0 in 5 years?
Mhm, mhm.
That's a beautiful approach, and similar to what Lindsay was saying, like, oh, they're not a client yet. Put them down for the future. Um, any other, beliefs, alternative beliefs that we could suggest for each other? Lizzie talked about perfectionism, so it could be, hey, you could share your own experience with perfectionism with your clients. Maybe there's a belief, around that it gives you an opportunity there. Um, Maybe there's a belief that, the, it's kind of like losing weight. If your goal is to lose 100 pounds, but you've only lost 99 pounds, hey, that's still a lot of progress. Do you want to just look at the failure of the whole goal or the progress of the 99? So maybe there's some belief, tied up in there with that you can tell yourself. Anything else that might come up for any of y'all, alternative beliefs?
What helped me with perfectionistic tendencies is reminding that done is better than perfect.
Mhm.
Okay. Done is better than perfect. All right. Okay. Any other thoughts before we move on? Okay. All right. Sorry I have to leave early, Lindsay, but thank you for your participation.
Hi, Lindsay.
So far we've dug into, and let me just adjust my window now that she's left. So we've dug into several challenges, beliefs, alternative beliefs. And my question to all of you is, what do these have in common? And there are no wrong answers, but I'm curious if you saw any patterns amongst everything we talked about. And I can certainly jump in with what stuck out for me. And I actually, someone already used these words. Is they all they all revolve around I'm not good enough, right?
Mhm.
And we could have all these different beliefs, but at the core, they seem to boil down to I'm not good enough. And then when I looked a bit more at these, I saw maybe some different categories. And we heard some of this. There's categories of I'm not good enough as a coach, I'm not good enough as a business person, and I'm not good enough as a person or human. So that's what stuck out for me of that was common about these. Anything stand out for you all?
No, I definitely agree that that's all kind of different flavors of I'm
Mhm.
not good enough.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a funnel, like it all kind of funnels to that
Yeah.
center.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And when I was also thinking about how I would describe these, if there were one word to describe all these beliefs, the word that I kept thinking of was arbitrary.
Mm.
All these beliefs we tell ourselves just seem kind of made from whole cloth. They're just arbitrary. Does anything come up for you all? If you had to come up with one word, does something stand out or resonate with you?
The word self-destructive comes up for me.
Ooh,
Um,
that's a good one.
mhm.
So that's definitely self-sabotaging.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Another thing, but my mind goes step further and like I almost if we have this, I don't know, list of unhelpful beliefs, we can create list of helpful beliefs and make it our code. It's like that's my operational manual for starting a coaching business. And I don't know, statements which resonate with us.
What was that very last
Like
part? You don't know what?
uh, and make this code like this full of statements which resonate with us, like done better than perfect, what like I don't know, connecting is good, or so, I don't know, stuff like this.
Mhm.
Very good. Yeah, it's powerful, how these words and beliefs, shape how we think and how we go to about our business and our actions. And self-destructive is great. Arbitrary, to me, I always think about how the optionality, it is something we choose. We can choose to have one belief or we can choose to have another belief. Um, so, all right, we've heard about, these challenges, the beliefs behind them, some alternative beliefs. We wouldn't be coaches if we didn't talk about action. So we've noticed that all these, scenarios are about not being good enough, and they're all arbitrary or self-destructive or optional or whatever you want to call it. What would you do differently? So, Emily, if I can start with you,
Yeah.
what was one of the alternative beliefs that you came up for your challenge today?
I think think the sense of like, well, of course, of course it's hard, like, of course it's not, um, of course there are like setbacks and challenges amidst the wins because I'm doing something new. And like I was just watching a video with my 6-year-old of her when she was like a little baby and was sitting up, and she just kept on like tipping over, and like then her head was so heavy she like couldn't push herself back up. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of like a baby a little. I mean, I don't want to, not in a diminishing sense, but like, yeah, like if you're learning to walk, you're stumbling and you're like running into a coffee table, and it's hard to learn to walk. Um, and mastery takes time and energy. And so I think like almost that. So the learning to walk, and again, I don't mean it in like a diminishing baby sense, but like something entirely new, um, is a lot, and mastery takes time and it takes bumps. That's where I'm kind of holding on to.
So maybe summarizing that might be stumbling is natural, and it's
Mhm.
not just natural. Stumbling is a requirement to a successful business.
I like that. That adding another word requirement. That's helpful. Thanks.
Okay. So now let's take this a step further. If you could hypothetically believe that, just you may not in your heart right now, but just
Yeah.
put it hypothetically, because we can trick our brains a little bit when we do that.
Yeah.
Believe that new belief about it being a requirement.
Yeah.
What else could you believe?
I think I could see like what I'm working towards with more clarity. Like I could see the action I'm taking towards what I'm working towards with more clarity, like the vision of a like running, and you're like stumbling in a run, but like you're moving towards that goal, right? You're moving towards it. So I think just holding that visual. I lost your question somewhere in there because I got caught on this little visual. Does that answer your question?
It does. And we're going to take it further. So if you could believe,
Yeah.
hypothetically, that stumbling is required, and that when you believe that, that you have greater clarity of your progress toward a goal. That's
Yes.
what I heard.
Yep.
What, and this is the last time we're going to do this.
Yeah.
What else could you believe?
I think I could believe that in the midst of all of it, I am super duper strong.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
So to tie this all together, if you could believe all of that, what action could you take?
I think my action would be faster, right? Like I also, Jenny, I have this list that I'm chipping away at of the people, and I have my LinkedIn posts, but I think I could just like churn in a just like, yep, I'm doing it. I'm going, and like it's happening. What am I learning? What am I seeing? Where it's like, ooh, how am I going to do this? How do I avoid a stumble as much as possible? I think I could move with more zip.
Hmm. You know what I hear? It's like allow allow ourselves more stumbles, not set it as a goal. How many stumble? How many mistakes I
Oh,
can
I
make
like
to
that. I like that. Yeah, because then you're moving, right? Like you're moving.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes.
It's also a Gretchism. She often talks about how many no's can you collect from prospective clients, and so you try to count that.
Mm.
Well, that's really beautiful, Emily. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks
And I
for that
appreciate
exercise. That was helpful.
I appreciate you putting yourself out there,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the guidance, or thanks for helping wind the path.
of course. Jenna, would you be
Mm.
willing to go through the same process?
Let's try.
All right, we'll try. And we can, this is like what's that old game? You can dial a friend or something. So if you get
Phone a
stuck on
friend.
a belief, maybe we can open it up and see what Emily and I think. So take the challenge that you had. What was the belief that you had behind this challenge and the first alternative belief you had?
Well, ultimately, I have to have a reason to connect with the person. The
Okay.
alternative belief, there is no reason except connection itself. Connection itself is valuable.
Okay. So are you saying that you have a belief that, oh, you need a reason to connect with someone, and your alternative
Well,
belief
it
is like,
seems so. Yeah.
okay, so it's going to be the same pattern. If you could believe that connection enough is reason to get in touch with someone, what else could you believe?
Well, that by just reaching out, I already, I don't know, do something good.
For this other person?
Well, yes,
Okay.
for this other person and in general, I increase amount of connection in the world, which is not a bad thing.
Okay. So if you could believe that reaching out is a good in and of itself because it's increasing connection in the world, what else could you believe?
Well, that actually by doing this, I'm serving other people.
You're serving other people. Okay. So if you could believe all of that, and at the end that choosing to reach out, that you are serving other people, what action could you take?
Well, I can actually reach out. So instead of thinking about it, instead
This
of
sounds,
thinking that I have to or need to, it's kind of, this random acts of kindness.
hmm,
So that becomes then reaching out to somebody from my past becomes this a random act of kindness.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. I also heard an interesting parallel when you said that. It sounds very similar to what Emily was saying about she could just go to the next thing on her list and do it without overthinking it.
Mhm.
Yes.
All right. So let's pause for just a moment. I want you to check in with yourselves. I'm curious, are you having any sort of reaction to this whole process, or is it resonating with you somehow?
It's resonating with me. Yeah, definitely.
So, given all that we've been through, and we've talked about, you know, the challenges we face, the beliefs behind them, alternative beliefs, and then lastly, actions we can take if we were to believe those alternative beliefs. What are you taking away from today? How do you think this might change your business?
Well, I believe in these incremental shifts. So it's not the first time I am approaching my mindset around outreach.
Yeah.
And every time I find a different flavor of resistance and I clear this in some
Mm,
ways. And then I'm able to take action with slightly less resistance, maybe, yeah, actually doing an email, text message. So that brings more action. And what I deeply believe in that action brings new information brings new learning, and that's always interesting. And that becomes kind of a snowball effect. The momentum will, at least I'm looking for, and I think we all are looking for.
I'm hearing that, another incremental shift, and that's important because each time you discover a new block and you clear that, and then you're on to the next one, and you're getting closer to really moving ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Emily, is there anything that you would like to share?
I think I'm just sitting a lot with like the framing of your question, like, well, if you could believe it in a different way, then what? Then what? And I think I'm struck by just that the sort of simplicity and yet challenge of like, well, I could believe this in a different way. And if I do that, then what's possible? So I think that's my like what I'm holding on to, knowing that like the nerves and the will still, come up tomorrow, who knows? And be like, okay, what am I believing about this? What would be an alternative that, could perhaps serve my business better?
Right.
Mhm.
So we're a little bit ahead of schedule, and we have an option. We can close out here, or if either of you are interested in, bringing up, it could be, talking further about what you've already brought up, or some sort of existing business problem or game film that is looking back at some, coaching experience that you'd like to get the perspective of the group, we can do that too. So is there anything on your mind that you'd like to bring up or discuss or pick our brains on?
I guess, Nick, I would ask you, where, like, what you feel was most helpful for you in the early years of your business, whether around mindset, whether around kind of like technicalities, but like getting in that sort of getting the ball rolling years, months. I don't know how long it took for you, but just like to become established, sort of, are there, when you look back, you're like, oh, I'm so glad or I wish I had, any wisdom from, your journey? Bless you.
I appreciate the question, and it's a good one, and I'm going to have to sit with it for a moment to think about. I mean, so this is the topic I chose to talk about, and I'm really personally struck by the arbitrariness of all these beliefs.
Mhm.
And the act of, and I'm also just now picturing what Genya said about, I think you said a different like flavor of block. I love that. Like we just moved forward, or I moved forward and I hit some block, and like it felt big to me, but in the scheme of things, it's probably small, probably like same types of thing we all talk about all the time. And just work through that and realize that, oh, this belief that I have is optional. Like
Mhm.
and like really internalizing that takes time. I think so. I think that's the other aspect of just being patient
Mhm.
with myself and pushing forward, uh, that and realizing that stumbling is a requirement.
Mhm. Mhm.
I know I struggle a lot with perfectionism. I'll share another. I was Gretchen was coaching me, and I was asking about, how to phrase a certain thing in a certain situation with a client, and I was trying to get it perfect. And Gretchen's like, Nick, people will listen to the gist of what you're saying. Don't get too caught up on just the right words. You want to get the
Mhm.
gist across. And I often think about that, and not just what I say to others, but also how I approach things. That okay, this doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to. What's the gist?
Mhm.
And people will read, and maybe you two can speak to this. Like people will read into what they heard or saw in ways that are helpful to them. And I said that you two might have seen this because we did this tonight. I wanted everyone to recognize that, hey, Emily, you may have a block, and when Jenna hears you talk about that block, it's actually like she sees it, but a different perspective. And then same thing with the beliefs, and they're all a little bit different, and they're all similar, and they're all helpful. So that's a bit of a winding answer.
Thank you.
That trigger any new thoughts for you?
I think I'm just sitting with that. Yeah.
All right.
I
All
like
right.
the what's the gist, and I do what's the gist is like a helpful non-perfection
Yeah.
framing. Yeah, I'll hold that.
It's fun. Pay attention to it, and it's amazing how you can just mess up in what you're saying to someone, like switch words, confuse them. But then if you get the whole gist out, it's just everyone just moves on.
Yeah, totally. And you spend less time or
Right.
unnecessary time. Yeah.
Jenya, anything on your mind before we break for the evening?
No, not really. I am good at the moment. I It definitely stirred some thoughts for me.
Hmm.
So, okay, I'll share one thought. So I just signed up for like 10 weeks business development for coaches program. And I've done it before. I mean, different programs, they didn't work as at least that's what I thought. Now I see, after this conversation, I see it differently. They did work. They just were not enough that, like, I don't know, they will work eventually in a way that it will show the result. It's just the result is still kind of a part of the iceberg which is underwater. So meaning, even if I will not get result which I expect from this upcoming training, it doesn't mean it was not good or there was no result. Just it was a part of the process. It's not a reason to stop. It's not a reason I get very upset, just mildly. That's my new thinking, which was triggered by this whole conversation.
That's wonderful. I'm really caught by this idea of experiencing the same thing but with new eyes. It's really powerful. So, well, thank you both. I'll close up here. If you want to keep the momentum going, here's the action steps to sum up what we've been talking about. So next time you feel stuck, consider your belief beneath the block. Think back to tonight and realize that you're not alone. All these beliefs are absolutely arbitrary. They amount to not feeling enough, and there are countless alternative beliefs to get you unstuck. If you are also looking for some support and accountability, head over to Gretchen's Coaching for Coaches Facebook group. You can share what you're committing to there so that we can celebrate your wins and support you along the way. Otherwise, thank you so much. You both were all stars in your participation. I appreciate it. And I wish you a good night and all the best in your coaching businesses. Take care. Okay.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.